Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Impossible, and with me today I have Wyatt, and welcome to RetroGrade, where we grade all of the Atari 2600 games. This week we have SpectraVision and Mythicon. So let's get into it here. So first off, we have SpectraVision. There's also called SpectraVideo. I'm not sure where the delineation there is, but I think most of these say actually SpectraVision on them. So I'm going to have you go ahead and start this
Same
time.
company, though?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Well, what was this first one?
Bumper Bash.
Bash, that's right.
It's really hard to read because of the
pinball.
The boxes are really shiny.
The foil made the scans kind of wonky for some of these.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Bumper Bash, a pinball game where you had to use both controllers.
Yep.
Interesting concept. A bit better than other pinball games that we played, like Dave's House of Magic or whatever. And
Midnight Magic.
That's the one.
Yeah. And then also Video Pinball.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dave's Magic Shop and Video Pinball. Whereas Bumper Bash had a lot. It felt a lot more kinetic. Felt like you were actually playing pinball a little bit. I will say. The noises, the sound was fine. Nothing. I guess the big thing is it was fine. Didn't really wow me as a game. And the choice of doing that as opposed to just having both flippers go off every time that you hit it. I don't know. It seems unnecessary one way or the other, but kind of an interesting choice, but not a bad one.
Is that from a guy that doesn't play pinball?
I've played pinball. I play pinball, and I often do the double flappers.
And that's why, Go ahead.
That's why what?
Nothing.
You don't know anything about
pinball guys would be like, yep.
You know, don't mash both flippers.
Regardless, as far as this goes, I don't know that was a necessary thing, but it wasn't bad. Didn't feel terrible. It was just kind of awkward because you had to have two of them next to each other. Don't assume it would feel much better or worse with actual Atari controllers, but I don't really know.
Probably not. I mean,
pretty similar is all I mean. So I'm going to give it a B.
Okay.
It was good for what it was trying to do. I did actually have a little bit of fun. I liked the way the ball moved and everything. But it was just, I think the 2600 is still not the place for pinball, so I can't put it much higher than that.
Well, we've talked about this before. Anytime you do a video game of pinball, it's always kind of weird. I mean, compared to a real pinball machine, especially since like the aspect ratio is weird and all that stuff. So, for me, I'm going to give it an A. I thought it was really well done. As you're mentioning, like the ball physics actually was really good. The two buttons was a little wonky at first, but setting it up, it was like, okay, this isn't horrible. I much would prefer that than having them both go at the same time. Absolutely. But that's coming from someone that has a lot of pinball under my belt. So okay, next up is the challenge of
Nexar.
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 So that was the one with the shooting and the lines.
Yeah, the scrolling vision.
Yes.
A lot of noise all the time.
Yes.
It was interesting visually, but you were just shooting at TIE fighters and boxes.
Yep.
I think I would rather play the pinball over Nexar, but I can't say that Nexar was terrible. For what Nexar was, it actually worked pretty well. You shot to the center from any angle that you were at, so you'd have to angle yourself to try and hit the different shots that you were going for.
Sure.
Shooting the multiple boxes meant that you could, going through each level. It did have multiple levels because of that, and it did get harder because there were more boxes every time. Seemed kind of random when boxes would come.
Yeah, I felt like we were just waiting around for boxes to show up.
And there's no real reason to shoot at a lot of the ships because you can just avoid them pretty easy.
I think it wasn't points.
Yeah, but it wasn't an overly complex game. You can really get into a zone with it, but I don't think it's like as refined as some of the other games like that I've played on the system.
I'm gonna agree. I think I would give it a B. It definitely felt like one of those games where you can, I think we've talked about this a little bit about being in the zen or zone kind of thing where you're not even really looking at what you're shooting at. It's almost like you're looking. Almost like, those Magic Eye posters where you're like looking through it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it's just kind of like stuff's happening. You're not even really
It's about the
focusing.
In some ways, it's just letting your body and your, letting the joystick move without actually
It's kind of
making a decision where it's going.
It's almost all peripheral vision, almost like you're just doing, you're not even thinking about it. So I could definitely see that being the case with that kind of game.
There's a huge place for those kinds of games.
Oh, yeah.
As we've gone through a lot of these, I've grown actually a greater appreciation for them as not a genre, but
just kind of a chill out,
subset of games.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something kind of cool about the ability to have a full conversation without focusing at all on what you're doing and still be just
because you can just have a conversation because you're not having to concentrate.
It's totally different parts of the brain that are working. Fully motor function versus actually focusing on talking. Kind of interesting in that way. I think actually the next one, Chase the Chuck Wagon, kind of did that. It's one of the few games that isn't a shooter that we played that kind of did that.
Right.
Because all you're doing is avoiding
random obstacle,
a guy and a ghost of various objects, including another dog. Your dog going for some dog food at a chuck wagon, I guess. My big issue with it came down to the fact that as opposed to dying, having to restart the level or anything, when you got hit, it would just stop you from moving for a minute.
Right.
And there wasn't like anything you could do to make it go faster or anything.
Sure.
And it was just like, all right, I'll just sit here and not play the game anymore. Anytime a game, it punishes you for losing by just making you not play the game for a minute, I'm like, what was the point of doing that then? It's just not
It's a way of just kind of...
It's not my favorite punishment because at the very least, if you're going to tie up the player, have them have something that they can do in the meantime that even if it doesn't actually make you get out of things faster, makes you feel like you're doing something.
So that guy, by the way, is a dog catcher. I looked it up.
Oh.
The guy walking around.
He got stuck a lot.
Yeah, he got stuck. Well, one of the problems that the game had, and apparently it was made like in 3 days or something.
Oh, wow. Kind of impressive.
Yeah, well, I think I was reading a thing about it, according to Wikipedia or whatever. The guy had already worked on other games, and so he actually kind of threw it together. Using bits and pieces from other games, but the deal is that like a lot of the sound effects were reused, a lot of things were redone, but there were a couple issues. One of them was the fact that there was very little space, no space in between you and the wall. Like
you had to kind of be just perfect. In a lot
you had
of
to be
ways.
perfect, yes.
And so did the the little program for the guy moving around, but he wasn't.
Right.
So he
just kept getting stuck.
He would circle one spot and you just have to go around him. It wasn't in that way. It was almost too easy at times. There wasn't a lot of
No, it was kind of weird when you're in the maze where it's like he's coming for you. He's like, you're not getting around him, so you got to go all the way around.
Yeah.
So
then, of course, the bonus round is just line yourself up with the food.
Yep.
Which, if you hit the button and missed, then it was like, oh, you lost. That sucks. But if it just falls all the way down, it just gives you another chance. So it's like, until you know you're going to line it up perfectly, just don't push the button.
Right.
But I don't know. Where can I put this in that vein then? I don't think I would play it over Nexar. I don't know that it's a bad enough game to be in C. But for now, I'll put it at the low B. Because for a game made in 3 days, not even taking that into account necessarily, it still had some interesting animations. It had a lot of quirks. So maybe I'll actually pop it down to the top of C. Because it had a lot of quirks. It didn't really function super well. But I won't lie, I did have fun while I was playing it.
For me, gameplay-wise, it was pretty uninspiring, I guess, as far as just the maze.
It animated quite well, though.
the graphics, just the graphic on the dog, and it was so subtle, but just showing the waving tail,
Yep.
and the part where when the bull goes lower and he looks down. Perfect. It was just like, it was hilarious on how well they could capture that with just a couple of pixels. I thought that the character, apparently the name was Chucky, the name of the dog.
Ah, Chucky.
Chucky, he's chased the Chuck wagon. You know.
Sure, makes sense.
But yeah, gameplay wise was lacking, but the graphics almost kind of made up for it. I'm gonna put it in B. I thought it was a cute game. I thought it was definitely one of those where I think kids would probably really like it. I mean, because it's a dog, and it's very obvious that it's a dog. That's another thing. A lot of these things, they say it's a blank, whatever. It's like, yeah, all right, that kind of looks like that, but it's like, no, this looks like a dog. I mean, this was...
You got to use your imagination.
Yeah. This was very much looked like a dog. So I was like, oh, cool. I like it.
Good. Good for you, Chucky. You had your own game. I would have thought his name would be Chase as opposed to Chuck, because he's going after the Chuck wagon. But the fact that his name implies that he's already associated, it's like they're leaving him behind. That Chuck wagon needs to work on that.
I guess.
As far as the next one, let's move on. China Syndrome?
Yes.
I think that one is. Yeah.
Yes.
That one's kind of hard to read.
We spent a while on that one.
I'm going to give it an A.
Yeah.
I like the style of it. The multiple colors. The flashing was a little bad at the bottom on things.
But that wasn't, I think the thing is with that really just kind of was an indicator of like how close it was to exploding.
It wasn't a painful flashing, and you could pretty much tell without looking at anything at the bottom.
Oh yeah, if it's going crazy, tons of dots on the screen, you better hurry up and get all of them.
But figuring out how to get good at catching the things as they were going around, bouncing them, it caught me. It captured me a little bit, and I was invested in doing that game. So I'll give it unique.
I thought it was neat because, well, one of the things that was cool to me is the fact that you had like 3 different reactors or whatever, like the red, yellow, and blue or whatever. And it was neat because it was like, okay, this section is this color, this section is this color, and this section is that color. It was kind of juggling in a way. Okay, you're working on these guys. Oh, I got to get down here. Oh, I got to, Tapper kind of style of, if you're working on a thing, you got to work on that. You got to keep your attention just keeps getting moved back and forth. But it was neat because it seems like they tried to do something that really kind of used the hardware in a good way, and that totally, it's really easy to just make it one color right here. It's like, all right. And so there's no flashing on the top. The flashing on the bottom was a little annoying, like you said.
But you don't have to look down there much.
No. And it was...
So it's not so distracting as it is in some of these other games. And it didn't hurt.
No.
Because some of the flashing on these games is so much.
It depends on how much you're looking at it, I think.
Sure, but like the game we played with one of the Panda games, where those 2 bars on the side were flashing all the time.
That was bad. I think for me, I'm going to give it probably a high B. It was good. I feel like, it was a little bit... I think it needed more, but it was kind of neat, though, I will say.
Sure,
It was definitely more unique than a lot of the other ones. There was no shooting. There was no,
just
whatever.
Collecting particles.
Yes.
Which it just had a charm to it, and the colors were nice and clear, and it did a good job at what it was trying to do, I think.
Yep.
Cross Force? I'm trying to remember this one.
I think that was the one with the I think it was the lightning one.
You had 2 points, and you were shooting lightning between them, or a laser, or something.
Sure.
That one it was a little dull for me. I'm gonna give it a C.
Okay.
Because it had some interesting graphics and stuff, but I just wasn't getting into it. I don't know what it was about this one in particular. I don't know if I'm being totally fair, but as I was playing it, I was just like, I couldn't get into it.
I think that they had some originality. the idea of shooting like from one point to another, and you can kind of do back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you couldn't hit the like UFO that obviously you could hit, it just didn't do anything.
Yeah, that was kind of odd. It felt like, am I not supposed to? What is it?
It was a little odd there, but you shoot the guys once, and then they turn into like the Muppet dudes or whatever.
Yeah,
they look cool. The graphics on those guys look really neat. The bad guys, they look neat. But yeah, I felt like the graphics were better than the gameplay in this one. I mean, we didn't really play it that long because it was just kind of like, all right. So it's just a variation on shooting stuff in space.
Yeah, it's just it tries something a little different, but it just doesn't really then make that different thing more fun than other games.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a C, just because it was like I don't really see wanting to play it again. Whereas some of the others, I could definitely see playing again.
Sure. All right, the next one we kind of played last week as well, Gangster Alley.
Yeah.
Because we played what
I don't know what it's called, but
I don't recall, and I don't need to.
Exactly.
This was a much better version of it.
Yeah, because it was like the original versus a hack.
Yeah, a bad hack. It played much smoother. I could see wanting to play it a little bit more. You have to kind of look for the guys that are bad, and once they pop all the way up, then you get shot.
Yeah.
Or if the guy throws the bottle or bomb or whatever it is he's got at the top.
Bottle or something.
Yeah. Once he throws that, you lose, so you got to make sure to watch him as well. It was overall reasonable, I would say, as a game. It's not still, I think, an exceptional shooting gallery game.
Sure.
It had some cool things, like the game over screen of the guy laughing at you.
Yeah, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And, all the different guys had a little bit of character to them.
Yes.
I think I'm gonna give it a low B. Because I wouldn't mind playing it again. I don't think I'd play it over Nexar or, these other games. But it is a game I'd probably pick up again, given the option.
I think my biggest problem with it was the controls, how slow it was to move, the control. I feel like obviously it'd be much better if you had a light gun. It just seemed like, if you're trying to get across the screen and it's a slog getting across, and you're like, you're gonna die, you're gonna die.
I think one benefit that it did have is that you only had to shoot the window that the guy was in.
Seemed like the collision was the hitbox was pretty big.
So they were generous in that way, knowing that it would be a little slower. Right. So I think they compensated
general vicinity
generally. Yeah. But I totally get what you're saying. It was a little at times like,
stressful.
Oh, jeez.
You felt stressful, like trying to get over there, but it's just really hard. Now, how could they have fixed that without using the light gun? It's hard, because then if it's too fast, then you lose the fine tuning bit, and unless you had some sort of acceleration kind of stuff, it's hard to do that. For me, I probably would give it maybe a high C. I felt like it was, again, it was a shooting gallery, which, and it's like they had bad and good guys, which is cool. It's always like, if we look at a little further along would be Hogan's Alley, which seemed like very much kind of a similar type of game. But you have the bad guys and the good guys, and you don't want to shoot the good guys and all that stuff. I mean, compared to that hack, it was worlds better, but obviously that's kind of not a great comparison. But yeah, I thought it was decent. Just the controls were just too slow.
Sure. Next up is Gas Hog, which is an odd title. And you did have to refuel, I guess, but I don't really get
what was that one?
That was the one where it had the two planes, and you would go one way on the other, on the top, and then you'd go left on the bottom.
The one where it looks like you're going backwards.
Yeah.
You're saying, I'm going left, but I think with all the parallaxing and stuff, all the graphics, it didn't look that way, and it was very odd looking to show you going this way and then going this way.
Shoot the guys and then collect points, but if you shot points, it would deduct the points.
Yes, and you're not getting any points because you keep shooting. I was like, oh, I see a thing, I shoot it, and it's like, no, it's supposed to collect it, don't shoot it.
So it had we played it for a decent amount of time, but it wasn't like an exceptional commanding game.
Yeah, Gas Hog seems like should be like a driving game, like an actual like racing
it doesn't
game.
Feel quite right. I think I'll give it a high C. Because I don't know that I'd play it more than any of these other games again, but I did play it a lot, so I can't like rate it too low on C.
Sure.
Because C is like, is okay.
Yeah,
it's just
definitely a C for me.
Much going on.
I felt it was a bit uninspired, I guess. It's just like, all right, you just go around shooting stuff. It didn't wow me. So, I mean, it was functional, I guess, but...
It had more guys coming down over time, but there's no... I don't know. There was not a lot to the direction of what you're supposed to be doing, and you can never shoot those 3 guys, so it felt like you should just stay down in the bottom area.
Right.
It's the only place fuel ever seemed to come from anyway.
Right.
The next one is Mangia, right?
Mangia. Yeah.
Mangia. That one was kind of interesting. You're eating or throwing food at animals to have them eat it for you.
Yeah.
And if you either eat too much or let too much food stack up or miss too many shots to one of your animals, the table explodes. And,
because that's what happens. Tables
I guess
just
so.
Explode.
It was, it's either a high C or a low B for me. Because the game was kind of interesting, actually. It worked, you have to manage who you're throwing to. There was a lot of timing involved in that. It was kind of cool, and it was cool to see the guy get bigger because he's eating so much.
Yeah.
I think my biggest thing was just, I really didn't like the sound design in that one. Because there was just that ringing, like I don't know
phone
if it was the
ringing
phone or whatever.
It's like, will someone answer this thing, please?
It was just like constant, and it was like, oh my god. I think the other thing is it was way easier to throw to the cat than the dog because the cat is just right there. So you could miss if the cat went away, but the dog was kind of difficult to time because it was, running across, but you could only really hit it at one spot.
See, that was not very accurate because if you were feeding a dog, there's no way a dog would be running around.
Yeah.
It'd be sitting right there. It'd be like, more. Because that's what dogs do. They're like, they're not going to be running around.
I think there are a couple of ways that this, as an overall concept, is pretty interesting. But I'm going to give it a high C because I just don't see myself playing it again.
I really liked the game. I thought it was really unique. I have never even thought of a game like that before. I like the graphics. Sure, the sound was a little bit irritating, but I'm going to have to give it square in the B here. I think that it's got to be somewhere in here. Let's see, China. I think that first one's really
China Syndrome, yeah.
China Syndrome. Do I like it better than that? No, I'm going to probably give it a mid B for me. I thought it was charming. I like the cat and the dog is just like, it's like a little kid, and the mom just keeps trying to force feed the kid. You need to eat more, manja.
Sure.
And so it's, I thought it was neat.
Yeah, no, totally fair.
Yeah.
Master Builder is a bad game. D. Easy D for me.
Yeah.
It was both tedious and boring and anger-inducing because it just functioned poorly.
Yeah.
In a way that it's like, there's no way to do this game properly.
Well, no, there is a way to do the game, like...
to play the game properly. There's just, you can't actually build that thing.
I don't know how you would. It's like...
It actually seems like it might be impossible to do that.
Either we were missing something or what, I don't know.
But the 2600 does not have a lot of buttons.
Yeah, I felt like just that whole, like, oh, you can't move because you're on the same level. It's like, why? If they removed that element...
If you were just laying bricks and there were more things flying around,
the problem is though, what is what's the there's no time limit. What's the negative aspect?
Right, but they had a dog that randomly ran by.
Yeah.
How do birds fly by that you have to jump over as you're building, or have them steal a brick? So
the idea of it was neat. Yeah, the brick, actually, that'd be pretty interesting if a bird can steal a brick. But,
sure, but
yeah, it's true. We've seen other things, but I wanted to like it. It looked charming.
It did, but it's just
not playable.
It is not.
You play it on the first row, but
easy.
But you can walk on the first row. You could go back and forth. Although I think, didn't it when you moved? I think it moved the ladder when you did.
Yeah, it did. You would always walk the ladder around on the first level, but you could walk around it because it was the ground floor. But apparently, once you get on top of that, you can't stand on that next layer of bricks and move around unless there's no other bricks on that level.
And that's just that. Unfortunately, that breaks the game.
And it was pretty easy to lay that last brick, even if you could I've managed to do it where I'm going to lay this last brick and be on the ladder. It would move you sometimes.
The fact that it's just not playable, I feel like, what are we missing there? I mean, we played with it for a little while to try to figure it out.
But yeah, there might be something more to it. Yeah. And maybe we'll have to revisit it. But
I don't like the fact that you had to build it apparently according to the blueprint, but that'd be really hard because you have to memorize 3 levels of this, 3 levels of that, or whatever. Because I was just building like a triangle or whatever, and I was doing fine with it, but just when you get to that where you just get stuck, it's just maddening.
It was infuriating, and it's. Overall, definitely not the worst game I've played on the 2600, but it is also just dull. Yeah, it's not a good game. So that's where it's going to sit. Fair enough. Lower, though. We won't add a new tier for this one.
Sure.
Not like last week, but moving on from that is Planet Patrol, I think is the next one. Planet Patrol was interesting. It wasn't phenomenal, but it was really interesting. The ship had cool graphics. There was a point where you're firing in the night, so that's how you have to see.
Land?
For some.
That's the one where you land on a runway thing.
Yeah, that's right. And to refuel. You can land, and which was cool.
Yeah.
To be honest, my biggest complaint with the thing is just that it was kind of, in a lot of ways, bare bones. Otherwise, it's you also had to dodge an explosion after you blew up some reactors or something.
Yeah.
The big thing, though, was, once you got to a certain point, it's okay, I can blow up the ships, but I cannot blow up the missiles or these firing projectiles, which are also not coming from the ships.
Right.
Meaning the ships are just kamikaze things.
Yeah, exactly.
If you could destroy both, or the ships fired and you couldn't destroy that, but you could destroy the ships, so it behooved you to destroy the ships so that they would stop shooting. I don't know. There are ways that it could have worked a little better, but it was still fine. It was still pretty overall solid, I gotta say. So I'm going to put it above Gangster Alley in B, because I think it had a lot of potential and a lot going for it. And maybe once you get past that night level, there's potential for more, because we didn't get further than that. I don't really know. Yeah. The fact that change happened pretty quick, maybe there's more changes. I think it has a lot of potential behind it. I just don't know that it's the greatest of games.
Yeah, I really liked it. I would give it an A, but there's a couple things that are detracting for me. One, the jerkiness of the graphics.
Yeah.
It was kind of it was doing this thing. It was just really not...
Nothing moved smoothly.
Yeah. And that was kind of unfortunate. I really loved the idea of kind of getting to where, not only a boss, but the reactor things. It's it's very obvious that you're trying to get through these things, blow these things up, land, the fuel truck comes in and fuels you. It's I love that because, we've talked about the multiple screen things. It's not a multiple screen, but it is similar. in that there's a different game loop for each one of these things. And, we didn't do it, but you possibly could not land and just keep going or something. There's a lot of potential there. The fact that there's a day and night cycle, it had a lot of cool moving parts. I think that there was just some parts that could have been done better that would have made it a better game. But that being said, I am going to give it a high B. I enjoyed it. I could see playing it again. It just, the graphics on the sprite work that they did, like on the ship, I have mentioned this before. It really makes me happy when the developers make your character the most interesting thing on the screen. And I fully agree, like going back to these games, that is an important thing, because you don't want all the bad guys to have more, interesting things than you. You should be the center of attention. You're the player. And they did a good job of showing like the depth, because they had like 3 different colors on it. It's like a white and then a light gray and a dark gray to kind of give it that depth. And just like 3 colors, but it really makes a difference, especially when you look at a lot of other games that you just have one color. The way they were able to implement it was great, because it's like, it's not multiple colors per line. It's a different line, a different color per line, which is easier to do on the 2600. So I thought that they did a great job with that. I think it could have used some optimization, and it could have definitely been an A tier if they had done that.
Sure. Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty good with that one. The next one is Tapeworm, a classic kind of snake game. It was fine, but honestly, I'm going to rate it pretty low C, because I think, rather play each of these games more than I'd rather play Tapeworm again.
Okay.
It did its job pretty decently. The little guys were pretty good, but man, some of those noises were annoying in this one. I don't know. I think that it might just be this company in particular. I've definitely had problems with some 2600 noises before, but SpectraVision really set the bar on some of the bad ones that just really grind the inner part of my ear. Just, it does not feel good to listen to. Like the really high-pitched wailing of Beaky, and the noise when the spider gets you and stuff. I couldn't abide by that, but also outside of that, it was kind of dull and slow as far as a snake game goes. You're not moving very quickly, and you're picking up the things, going to the next level. I like some of the graphics with the fruits and the little enemies, and the fact that they were characters is pretty cool. But I was thinking about it, and it's like, I'd rather play Mangia over this, Gas Hog, and probably play that a second time before I played this. Yeah, so just, I can't rate it any higher than that.
So I kind of differ. I actually really like Tapeworm. Yes, the sound, I think, affects you way more than it does me. As far as like, kind of annoying in some ways, but it doesn't really affect me that much. I really liked the intro graphics, showing the names of all the characters. That was cool. I really feel like if more games did that kind of stuff, very much like how the Pac-Man in the arcade did.
Yeah.
They show like, Inky, Blinky, and all the different names, and they show them like kind of introducing them like on a movie or something. I really thought that was good.
Sure.
So for me, I'm actually going to give it an A.
Wow.
I enjoyed it. I mean, it's one of those things that, yes, it's a simple game. And it's like you're starting off, it's simpler and, whatever. But then, we only get to like the second level, which had a wall in the way. But, you can actually complete the level by getting like the fruit or whatever. But it had to be like in a certain part of the screen. The big thing there is those other games, the games that kind of came before it, really didn't have that element to it. You just kind of keep going, I think, on time or something. And yes, you get longer and longer, which makes it harder and harder to avoid your hitting yourself. But I really liked it. I thought it was pretty well done. So
cool.
Yeah. Next
up, Firefly. We moved on to the next company, which was what
Mythicon.
was this? Mythicon, I see.
Yes.
They only released 3 games in cheap, weird little boxes.
Yep.
And 2 of them are pretty much the same, but they're notably different enough that I will say they're pretty different to me.
They seem kind of variations on the theme a little bit.
Yeah, at least
like the Firefly and the Sorcerer. Yeah.
I'm gonna give Firefly a mid-C.
Okay.
Because that game it had some interesting graphics, but was kind of dull. In that, not a lot was going on. What the flowers don't do anything; they're just there. That there was a pixie or some creature that you couldn't shoot at on that screen, and if you touched it, you died. So it was just move on, I guess.
Yeah, it was a little odd. It was a little like, okay, it seemed odd to me, some of the things in there. I mean, graphically, it looked kind of cool.
There were some cool aspects.
I really liked the treasure graphics. I thought that was neat. Okay, you see the thing? It was kind of like, oh, what game are we playing? I see these kind of treasures, and I think, is this like, kind of more on like the dungeon crawler kind of thing. It's like, oh, we got a ring or a treasure chest or money or all these things. I'm like, oh, that's neat. They did a good job with that. But overall, the game, it was weird because you could like go to the right and just bypass stuff. It was just like, oh, right, yep, nope, just not gonna do it.
Just keep going.
Yeah. That being said, it was. I don't really see wanting to play it again.
No.
Personally, I'm probably just gonna give it a C.
Also, the most annoying music.
Right.
That one was.
It was like just constant.
Very short loop and not a very good loop. So that one, it wasn't like with Tapeworm or some of these others where the noises were like really grating. It was just annoying. It was like, hey, move on. Do anything else.
Right.
Sorcerer, however, I am gonna kind of flip on that and do a low B. Because Sorcerer was very, very similar to Firefly, but it was just actually better Firefly.
It looked better.
It looked better.
Yeah.
The music was a little less annoying. At least it also changed when you would destroy an enemy on the screen.
Yeah.
Once you got the little flying disc or carpet or whatever, you could fly up and down.
Yeah, it was like a magic carpet. That was kind of neat.
That was kind of neat, catching that, or the fact that you didn't have to do that. You could just move on, I guess.
Yeah.
The jumping was kind of weird.
Yeah, it was kind of like, as you were saying, you kind of missed the first part of the jump. It was just kind of like second part.
It was clear that jumping wasn't supposed to be a big part of it because you're supposed to fly around on your little.
Why they even had you be able to jump? Oh, the jumping
was to get it.
Yeah.
So it was in that way. I can give kind of a pass, but it's also a little weird, so I can't put it much higher. But I gotta say, it improved on a lot of the things I liked about Firefly.
Yeah.
Interesting graphics, little treasures, stuff
They
like that.
They reused a lot of the graphics, you can tell.
They sure did. But it played better, smoother, and was more fun. So.
Yep, I agree. I definitely, it would be a higher rank for me. I'm gonna probably also just give it a low B. I thought it was good. It needed maybe a little bit more. Some of I think some polish would have helped, like the jumping animation and stuff. The treasure graphics as well. Same stuff was kind of neat. The fact that it was always like 3 guys, it's always fun. That was another thing that was like
weird.
We can do 3 guys. Let's do 3 guys all the time.
Yeah, it didn't really make sense because you only had to shoot one of them because they were in a line.
It was like the one sprite kind of thing. Kind of remind me of the Atari football. I was like, you got 3 guys,
3 dudes that are moving in synchronous.
I think it was a football game.
It was soccer.
Was it soccer? Soccer. You're right.
Yeah,
the 3 guys. It's like. Really? It's kind of weird. It's like it's one sprite duplicated or whatever.
Yeah, so
a little odd, but whatever. It was fine in that regard. But these were budget games. And we
on a budget, I wouldn't have minded Sorcerer.
Yeah, Sorcerer I think would have been okay.
But Firefly, not so much.
Yeah, probably.
But
not as much.
On stream, they were talking about it being the grandma gift.
Yes.
Of like, they like video games.
It's cheap. It's like, Yeah, you get what you pay for.
I would guess most of these boxes had that little corner number scratched out by the time they got to someone.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's printed on the box.
Yep. So someone.
How?
I bet most of them had
a little Sharpie out. There you go. Because you couldn't really read what it said underneath. Nope. Right.
Yeah.
Nice sticker over it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. The two from right there.
Yeah.
Star Fox, I'm going to rate lower than Firefly, though, because it was a Defender clone that didn't do much. There was one enemy ever.
It looked like a prototype to me.
It really did. It didn't seem like it was done.
Yeah.
You could land, and then the guy would come and kill you.
Yeah.
If you wanted to give up, you could just do that.
I'm just going to park it right
I'm
here.
actually, I can't do it.
It seemed like they almost, okay, so the graphic for the ship was cool. I thought that was neat.
Sure.
But it's almost seemed like they had a concept for a game and they're like, yep, looks fine. And just ship it out instead of like actually making it into a real game. Mm-hmm. And, having multiple enemies that did something. Now, it was hard to shoot that dude. I mean, it was crazy.
There was a bit of a dogfight every time.
One guy or whatever. And so we were I was flying around.
And nothing would happen for
and I'd land, and then he would come out magically.
He'd be like, haha, I've got you.
Yeah. It's like, I landed on purpose just to see what I could do. I'm like, what are we missing? Because that was the thing. It's always a bad sign when we're playing these games. Like, what are we missing? Yeah, there's always
there's something going on.
Yeah, what are we not getting here? And so that was kind of a thing. It's like almost a game, but not really. I unfortunately, I probably have to give it a D. I don't feel like it wasn't cooked. It wasn't done. It very much felt like a prototype to me. And I just, it had the potential.
It had a lot going on that made me feel like it was going to be fun, but then nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And none of the, you could run through modes and stuff, but none of them did anything.
With the shooting, like the ship, shooting animations and all that was really neat. They had the parallaxing thing on the top where it's like, it seems like I want to be able to go up higher, but nope, you had to hit a wall and or ceiling, and then you couldn't go higher. So like, all right, I guess that's just to show that you're traveling.
Yeah, right.
It didn't have like a radar like the Defender. If you're going to be Defender, you kind of need a radar to show, because you have no idea where you are unless you just keep going and going and going and look for bad guys.
Which is what we were doing.
Yeah.
Not really getting anywhere with it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think that about sums up Mythicon.
Yeah.
Could have been better, but honestly, could have been way worse, too.
Could have been worse. Yeah, Sorcerer wasn't
it was
horrible.
Not bad. I will give them their props where it's due.
Yeah.
But as a budget option, not the worst.
No.
But SpectraVision and Mythicon, done it in the books. What are your thoughts?
I'm trying to think if I played any of these really, and I don't think I have.
The only one I'd ever played is China Syndrome, I think, to test it one time or something.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, but I feel like I've played it before.
Okay.
But to be honest, everything else totally new and definitely unique.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely tried to go a little bit out of the box. It's like, oh, this is a blank. They didn't really do that so much. Yes, there were a couple in here. Yeah. There were a couple in here that were a bit more, inspired by something else.
I appreciate their gusto. Master Builder might have sucked, but I like that they tried to, no building.
Again, if they would have fixed a couple issues, that could have been a much better game. If you could, they be able to walk on the thing or some way of doing something and not just get stuck. That was the infuriating part, is that it was just...
And if Mythicon had just been made slightly better games, they had the first Star Fox.
There you go.
Yeah, it could have been really interesting.
Exactly.
But yeah, the two companies overall, as far as like third-party budget titles go, I can't complain about them. They did what they set out to do, make games that you might want to play in between other releases.
Other good games.
Not to say that that's what I'm saying, but in a way, it's like, games that are cheap enough that you're willing to try them out in the meantime between big releases that you're excited for, and maybe you can find something you really like.
Right.
The A and the B category here are definitely all games that I think people would like. Like
Sure.
they could make it. It could be someone's favorite game. Some of these games.
Oh yeah.
They
Definitely.
have that potential, and I think that's pretty cool.
One thing I will say for SpectraVision, at least, I don't know what the Mythicon games look like, but I gotta say the art, or not art, but the case design, the SpectraVision case design is pretty nice actually.
Yeah, and
It's very ergo.
It is cool that it has
Yeah.
the foil, even though it makes it kind of hard to see in certain angles and stuff.
But the rounded corners and stuff.
also having the little dust cover pushy thing.
Yeah,
That's pretty nice that it does that.
yeah. I like the rounded corners. On the
You
top.
would know that you have a SpectraVision game. I guess.
exactly.
And that brand recognizability is not something that all the cartridges had.
No, I mean some of them had recognizability, whether it was good or bad.
Yeah,
but some of
that's
them were
true.
bad.
And to be honest, even though
the textured
Activision
back and stuff.
Activision being a really good game company at the time, their
They
cartridges
will suck.
were
Yeah, they did suck.
they put out small bricks with bad labels.
Yes.
It was not a great scene.
But these labels, this label looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks great for
I
being,
mean, it's hard to photograph and hard to show it on
Sure,
the screen, but
but for like what, a 40-year-old
83,
game?
so yeah,
Yeah.
40-year-old game.
40-year-old game this year.
Yeah.
It looks like you could have made it in the last 10 years.
Yeah, it definitely looks. It's kind of nice. So I mean, normally we don't talk about it, but I'm like, I actually had this sitting there. I'm like going, hey, why don't we show it on the screen? That's kind of cool.
Just because it is unique.
yeah.
A lot of the companies, it's not going to make it. If we had them or not, it's not.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes.
But these look cool enough, I think, to note.
Yeah.
But all in all, I'm excited for next week to see what comes out from Data Age and CBS.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. As always, be sure to leave your lists in the comments below. We'd love to see what you guys rate these games. Obviously, if we miss something, and one of the things we've been doing is we've been kind of replaying some games when we have a little bit of extra time during the stream. Something that we missed, like sometimes we miss some major rule, like the beefsteak tomatoes game. We play,
not knowing what was going on.
Yeah,
at all.
It helped a lot. And this time we played Fantastic Voyage. We got further. Wasn't still quite sure exactly what we were supposed to shoot and what we weren't.
Yeah, it's still a little lost on
Which is
some
a
things.
little. It's like that's kind of a bad sign. It's like you should probably be. It should be very obvious what you're supposed to shoot and what you're not.
Don't give score for things you're not supposed to shoot.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. Or negative score. One of the things I always thought
the
was
numbers.
funny. Yeah, what I thought was funny is in Spy Hunter. I don't know if you remember Spy Hunter.
Yeah.
But one of the things is if you shoot like civilians and not the spies, it'll actually put up there no points. And while you had shot them, even if you shot something during that time, you wouldn't get any points. So it penalized you.
Sure.
By shooting those, so that it would be helpful to have some sort of indicator, like, oh, don't do that.
Know what you're doing.
Yeah. Positive and negative reinforcement.
Yeah,
would be helpful.
and so don't know that we'll change our ranking on it.
But it was interesting. So
as a revisit, definitely worthy to look at it a little more.
Yep. In any case, thanks for joining us, and we will see you in the next adventure. Take care. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I post new videos all the time and I wouldn't want you to miss any. If you'd like to see more of this series, be sure to click up here. And if you'd like to see something else, be sure to click up here.